Naomi's footsteps echoed softly against the polished white floor of the hospital lobby. Her chest was tight, not from fear, but from the heavy discomfort of late pregnancy. She had carried her baby with grace, glowing through the months, but that morning was different. Her body was weak, her breathing uneven, and a strange pain kept crawling up her spine. She had not told her husband, Dr. Han Jisu, the most respected CO doctor in Seoul, that she was coming. He was busy with board meetings, surgeries, and endless responsibilities. Naomi didn't want to bother him. "I'll just get checked. It's no big deal," she told herself. But the moment she stepped into the hospital, she felt it. The stares, the whispers, the receptionist at the front desk, a young Korean woman with a sharp bob and sharper tongue, looked Naomi up and down. Her eyes lingered on Naomi's dark skin, her simple maxi dress, and her tired face. Instead of a polite smile, she gave a cold smirk. "Can I help you?" she asked in clipped, Korean-accented English. Naomi swallowed. "Yes, I need to see a doctor. I'm not feeling well." She placed a protective hand on her swollen belly. The receptionist clicked her tongue. "Maternity floor is busy. Do you have insurance?" "Yes." "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but..." "Then you'll have to wait." Her eyes narrowed. "Unless you're here for charity care?" The insult landed like a slap. Naomi straightened her back, even though pain tugged at her body. "I don't need charity," she said calmly. "I can pay." The receptionist muttered something in Korean to the nurse beside her, and they both laughed. Naomi caught one word, "Maguk," foreigner. Then another, "Hyuk," black. Her stomach tightened, but not from the baby. From humiliation. Still, Naomi forced a smile. "I just need to be seen." The nurse waved her hand dismissively. "Go sit. We'll call you if we have time." Minutes turned to an hour. Her pain worsened. She shifted uncomfortably in the waiting chair, pressing her hands against her belly. Beads of sweat dotted her forehead. She tried to breathe calmly, remembering the techniques she had practiced. Inhale, exhale. But then, without warning, her water broke. A loud splash against the shiny hospital floor. Gasps filled the lobby. Naomi froze, mortified, her dress soaking, her body trembling. "Ah, gross!" one woman exclaimed, jumping back. "Unbelievable," muttered another. "Why here? Why not in her own country? She probably can't even afford a real hospital," the receptionist sneered. Naomi's eyes stung with tears. "Please, help me," she whispered, her voice breaking. Instead of rushing to her, the staff backed away. The receptionist folded her arms. "If we help every foreign woman who walks in here, we'll have no space for our real patients." Naomi's heart shattered. She thought of her husband's gentle smile, his hands holding hers, the vows they had exchanged. "With me, you'll never stand alone," he had promised. And yet here she was, alone, rejected, and in pain. Her cry echoed through the lobby. "Somebody, please," but all she got were cold stares and muttered insults. Then, a voice cut through the air. Firm, familiar, furious. "Naomi?" Heads turned. Down the corridor, in a crisp white coat, stood Dr. Han Jisu. His eyes widened as he saw his wife, drenched, trembling, and crying. For a moment, the hospital froze. Everyone recognized him. The CO, the brilliant surgeon, the man who controlled their paychecks and reputations. Jisu rushed forward, his face pale with horror. He dropped to his knees beside Naomi, cradling her face in his hands. "My love. Oh my God, what happened? Why didn't anyone help you?" Naomi sobbed, clutching his arm. They wouldn't listen. They called me." She broke off, choking on the pain. Jisu's expression darkened, his jaw tight with rage. He turned to the staff, his voice booming. "Who ignored her? Who?" Silence. No one dared to speak. Jisu lifted Naomi gently into his arms. "Don't worry," he whispered to her, his voice trembling now. "I've got you. I'll never let anyone hurt you again." As he carried her toward the VIP maternity ward, the whispers behind them grew louder. Shock, shame, and fear rippled through the staff. But Naomi barely heard them. All she could hear was her husband's heartbeat against her ear. All she could feel was his strength wrapping around her broken moment. And all she could think was, they thought I was powerless, but they don't know who I am. For Naomi, this was not just the beginning of labor. It was the beginning of a storm. Naomi never imagined her life would lead her to Korea. Back in New York, she had everything society said a woman should want. PhD in public health. A modest but cozy apartment near the Hudson. Friends who admired her brilliance. Yet, deep inside she carried an emptiness. She had been praised for her brains, her discipline, her resilience, but rarely for her heart. Life in the city was loud, competitive, and draining. One morning, after submitting her final dissertation, she looked at her reflection in the mirror and whispered, "I need a break. I need to breathe somewhere new." That was how she found herself booking a one-way ticket to Seoul. Naomi's first days in Korea were filled with wonder. She admired the orderliness of the streets, the neon lights that lit up the night, the scent of roasted chestnuts on corners, and the rhythm of a culture both modern and traditional. She had no plans of meeting anyone, especially not love. But fate has a way of ignoring our plans. It happened on a rainy afternoon. Naomi had caught a cold and decided to visit a local hospital near her temporary apartment. She wasn't expecting much, just medicine and rest. When she entered the consultation room, a tall man in a white coat looked up from his notes. His dark hair was neatly combed, his jawline sharp, his glasses giving him an air of authority. But what struck her most were his eyes. Kind, curious, piercing all at once. "Good afternoon," he said in perfect English, his voice calm. "I'm Dr. Han Jisoo. What seems to be the problem today?" Naomi hesitated. His presence was intimidating, but his smile disarmed her. "Just a cold. Maybe exhaustion." He studied her chart, then her face. "You don't sound Korean." She chuckled. "Sharp observation, doctor." His lips curved. "Where are you from?" "New York." "New York," he repeated, as if tasting the words. "I've only seen it in movies. Is it really as loud as they say?" She laughed softly. "Louder. Sometimes it feels like the city never lets you breathe." Jisoo tilted his head. "And yet you left it to come here. To breathe." Naomi blinked. How could a stranger catch her truth so easily? What should have been a simple consultation turned into a 30-minute conversation. Jisoo asked about her research, her favorite books, her love for jazz music. Naomi teased him about being too serious. "You need to loosen up, doctor," she told him with a playful grin. "You look like you haven't had fun since ever." He raised an eyebrow. "Fun doesn't save lives." "Neither does frowning," she shot back. That was the first spark, the kind that makes two souls curious about each other. Over the next weeks, their paths kept crossing. At first by accident, then by intention. He invited her for tea after a checkup. She agreed. She showed him soul food recipes she had learned from her grandmother. He introduced her to Korean barbecue, laughing when she struggled with chopsticks. Their banter became their language. "Jisoo, you eat too slow." "Naomi, no, you eat too fast. Are you racing the food?" "Jisoo, I'm efficient." "Naomi, you're a vacuum." He laughed. A real laugh, one that startled even himself. Naomi realized something. Behind the serious doctor was a man who had forgotten how to be light. And Jisoo realized something too. Behind the brilliant PhD was a woman who carried joy like sunlight. One evening, he invited her to a hospital charity event. Naomi wore a simple navy blue dress, her braids styled neatly. She didn't expect attention, but when she walked in, people stared. Not with mockery, but awe. She was radiant. Jisoo couldn't take his eyes off her. All night, he watched her laugh, watched her speak with warmth to strangers. She didn't try to impress anyone, yet she impressed everyone. When the event ended, he drove her home. In the quiet car, he finally confessed, his voice trembling slightly. "You're different, Naomi." She smiled. "Different good or different bad?" "Different like. The air feels lighter when you're around." Her heart skipped. She turned to him, teasing to cover her own nerves. "Doctor, are you diagnosing me with air?" He chuckled, shaking his head. Then softly, "I think I'm diagnosing myself. With you." The car fell silent. The city lights blurred outside, but inside, everything felt sharp, clear. Naomi reached for his hand, and in that moment, friendship became love. Their love grew quickly, yet deeply. Jisoo admired Naomi's brilliance, her strength, and her laughter. Naomi admired his discipline, his gentleness, and his unspoken loyalty. When he proposed, he did it in a way that was both grand and intimate. They had gone out to dinner in a small restaurant tucked in a quiet Seoul street. Halfway through dessert, the lights dimmed. Suddenly, a soft melody filled the air. Naomi looked around in surprise, then saw a choir step out from behind the curtains, singing her favorite jazz tune. Jisoo stood, his face flushed, his hands shaking slightly. He knelt before her, holding out a ring. "Naomi," he said, his voice breaking, "I don't just want you in my life. I need you in it. You are my peace, my storm, my joy. Will you marry me?" Tears spilled down Naomi's cheeks. She laughed through them. "You dramatic man. Yes. Yes, 1,000 times." Their wedding was a fusion of worlds. Naomi's father walked her down the aisle to the soft sound of African drums blended with Korean strings. Her gown was elegant, her smile brighter than the sun. Jisoo, in his sleek suit, couldn't stop crying as he said his vows. And when they kissed, it wasn't just two people. It was two cultures, two journeys, colliding into one promise. Marriage life was blissful. Naomi discovered Korean traditions, tea ceremonies, temple visits, spring cherry blossoms. Jisoo discovered Naomi's roots, soul food Sundays, gospel music mornings, and her fearless dancing in the kitchen. When Naomi found out she was pregnant, she almost didn't believe it. She ran to Jisoo, holding the test, eyes wide with wonder. "Babe," she whispered, "we're going to be parents." For the first time in years, the serious doctor cried. He held her close, whispering, "Our child. A piece of you, a piece of me. What could be more perfect?" But Naomi didn't know that joy would soon be tested. For in a city that admired her brilliance in private, many still judged her skin in public. And the hospital, the very place her husband built to save lives, would become the battlefield for her dignity. Naomi's cries echoed through the hospital lobby, but the faces around her stayed cold. Her water had already broken. The pain was unbearable. Yet the nurses still refused to touch her. She clutched her belly, trembling. "Please help me. I can't take this." Instead of rushing to her aid, the receptionist rolled her eyes. "This isn't some street corner. Control yourself." Another nurse, an older woman, whispered loudly in Korean. "Black women are always so dramatic. They can handle pain better than us anyway. Let her wait." Naomi understood enough Korean to catch the sting. Her throat tightened with anger. "I'm a patient," she said firmly, through tears. "I deserve care." The nurse scoffed. "You think being loud will make you special?" She leaned closer, her voice laced with venom. "This is Korea. Know your place." Naomi's heart shattered. She had endured little comments before on the streets. Stares, whispers, sometimes people refusing to sit beside her on the subway. But here, in a hospital where life should matter more than skin, cut deeper. The pain in her body grew sharper. She could feel the contractions, stronger, closer. She wanted to scream, but she bit her lip, refusing to give them the satisfaction. Then, just when her strength was fading, the familiar voice roared from across the hall. "Naomi!" Heads snapped around. Dr. Han Jisoo stormed into the lobby, his white coat flowing behind him like a cape. His sharp eyes locked on his wife, trembling and soaked, surrounded by staff who stood frozen. He dropped his clipboard without a thought and sprinted to her. "My love!" He fell to his knees beside her, his arms wrapping around her. "Why didn't anyone help you?" Naomi sobbed, clutching his sleeve. They said I wasn't important. They let me suffer." For a moment, Jisoo's face went pale with shock. Then it hardened. His jaw clenched, his nostrils flared, his eyes burned with fury. He stood, still holding Naomi protectively. His voice thundered across the lobby. "Who did this?" The room went silent. No one answered. Jisu's glare swept across the staff like a blade. My wife, my pregnant wife, stood here begging for help while you mocked her? While you insulted her? His voice cracked with rage. Do you even remember your oath as doctors and nurses? The receptionist stammered. Yes, sir. We didn't know she was your wife. You didn't need to know. Jisu roared, his voice shaking the walls. You saw a woman in pain. That's all you needed to know. But instead, you judged her skin, her accent, her presence. You let your prejudice blind you to her humanity. Some staff lowered their heads in shame. Others trembled, whispering to each other. But Jisu wasn't done. His hand was tight on Naomi's back as he continued. You think because she's black, because she's not from here, that she deserves less? Do you have any idea who this woman is? She is not just my wife. She is a scholar, a woman with more knowledge and grace than half of you put together. She carries my child, our future, and you left her to bleed on the floor like she was nothing. His words cut through the silence like fire. Patients and visitors in the lobby watched in shock. Phones came out, people were already recording. Naomi leaned into his chest, tears sliding down her face. But for the first time that day, they were not just tears of pain. They were tears of relief. Someone was fighting for her. One young nurse, trembling, tried to defend herself. We thought she was poor. Jisu turned on her, his eyes blazing. So only the rich deserve care? Is that how low this hospital has fallen under my watch? His voice was colder now, dangerous. If that is your belief, you don't belong here. You don't deserve the white coat you wear. The nurse burst into tears, bowing deeply, but Jisu didn't flinch. Instead, he bent, lifted Naomi carefully into his arms, ignoring the wet stains on his coat. She clung to him, exhausted. I've got you, he whispered to her, his tone shifting to tender warmth. You're safe now. I'll take you to the VIP ward myself. As he carried her past the stunned staff, he turned back one last time, his voice low but sharp. Every single person who ignored her will face me in the boardroom. Your apologies mean nothing now. Save them for the unemployment line. Gasps rippled through the staff. Some covered their mouths. They knew he wasn't bluffing. Naomi buried her face in his chest, her voice weak but laced with emotion. Jisu, don't fight for me this hard. He kissed the top of her head gently. I will always fight for you. Always. As they passed through the corridors, whispers followed them. Was that the CEO's wife? She's black. She's beautiful. How could the staff treat her like that? The scandal was already spreading like wildfire. Naomi didn't want to care about gossip, but part of her heart twisted. She had wanted to be accepted, to be embraced as Jisu's partner, not just tolerated. Yet as he carried her into the private maternity suite, gently placing her on the soft bed, she realized something important. Acceptance from the world didn't matter, not when she had the unwavering love of the man standing by her side. Once Naomi was settled, Jisu gave strict orders. Top specialists only. Full monitoring. No mistakes. His voice was clipped, deadly serious. The staff scrambled, too terrified to even breathe wrong. When the door finally closed and they were alone, Naomi reached for his hand. You shouldn't have yelled so much, she whispered weakly. People will talk. Jisu knelt beside her, his eyes soft now. Let them talk. Let the whole world hear. I don't care about their whispers. I care about you. She smiled faintly, though pain tightened her body. You sounded like an action movie hero. He chuckled, kissing her hand. If I'm the hero, it's only because you're the reason I fight. Naomi blinked back tears, her heart swelling even as contractions racked her body. For all the cruelty she had faced in that lobby, in that hour, one truth overpowered it all. She was loved beyond measure. And she knew, with Jisu by her side, this storm wasn't going to break her. It was going to make her stronger. The contractions came harder now, waves crashing through Naomi's body, leaving her breathless. Sweat glistened on her forehead as she gripped Jisu's hand, her nails digging into his skin. Breathe, love, he whispered, wiping her tears. Inhale, exhale. You're stronger than this pain. She let out a sharp laugh between gasps. Stronger? You try pushing out a baby and then talk, Mr. Dr. CEO. Despite the tension, Jisoo chuckled, pressing his forehead to hers. Fair point. But if I could, I would take the pain for you. Naomi squeezed his hand harder. Yeah? Then consider this my revenge. The nurses in the room glanced at each other nervously, unsure whether to laugh in the presence of their furious boss. But Naomi's banter lightened the atmosphere. Even in agony, she was radiant. Hours passed, the storm of labor unrelenting. Jisoo never left her side, ignoring calls, ignoring meetings. His world had shrunk down to the woman he loved and the child they had created. At last, the final push came. Naomi screamed, her whole body trembling, then collapsed against the pillows as a piercing cry filled the air. The nurse held up the tiny newborn, her skin a perfect blend of deep brown and soft porcelain, her hair already curling in delicate wisps. It's a girl, the nurse whispered. Naomi burst into tears, her chest heaving with joy. A girl? Oh my God, Jisoo. She's perfect. Jisoo's own eyes brimmed. He bent low, kissing Naomi's damp forehead, whispering, You did it, my queen. You gave us the world. When they placed the baby in Naomi's arms, silence filled the room, broken only by the newborn's soft cries. Naomi stared at her daughter as though she were staring at the sunrise. Hi, little one, she whispered, her voice shaking with love. I'm your mom, and you are loved more than you'll ever know. Jisoo wrapped his arms around them both, his voice firm but tender. And you are mine too, my daughter. Half black, half Korean, fully loved. But while joy filled their room, chaos rumbled outside. Videos of Naomi being ignored and insulted in the hospital lobby had already gone viral. Social media in Korea buzzed with outrage. Headlines screamed across news outlets. Pregnant black woman denied care at Seoul Hospital. Saved by CEO husband. Racism in white coats. CEO's wife humiliated before birth. Doctor's wrath. CEO Han Jisoo explodes over staff prejudice. The board of directors called emergency meetings. Journalists camped outside the hospital. Patients demanded answers. Inside the maternity suite, Naomi could hear the muffled chaos. She turned to her husband, worry in her eyes. They're going to drag you into this mess. Jisoo shook his head, his expression fierce. This is not a mess. It's the truth, and I won't let them bury it. The next morning, Jisoo called for a press conference right inside the hospital auditorium. Naomi, still weak but determined, insisted on being there with their newborn. You don't have to, he told her, brushing her hair back. I do, she whispered. This isn't just your fight. It's mine too. It's our daughter's. When they walked into the hall, cameras flashed wildly. Naomi sat beside him, her baby swaddled in her arms. Jisoo stood at the podium, his voice steady but filled with restrained fire. Yesterday, he began. My wife came to this hospital in pain, seeking care. Instead of compassion, she was met with insults. Instead of medical help, she was treated with contempt. Why? Because she is black. Because she is foreign. Because some among us allowed prejudice to blind their duty. Gasps filled the hall. Reporters scribbled furiously. This hospital was built on a promise that every life matters. Yesterday, that promise was broken, and I will not allow it to happen again. The staff who failed their duty will face consequences. But this is bigger than punishment. This is about change. He paused, glancing at Naomi and their baby, his eyes softening before, turning hard again. My wife is a scholar, a woman of brilliance and dignity. She is not less because of her skin. My daughter, born yesterday, is not less because of her heritage. They are more, because love made them mine. The audience was silent, moved by the raw emotion in his voice. And to every black woman, to every foreign woman who has ever been treated as invisible in this country, hear me today, you are not invisible. Not here. Not anymore. The room erupted in applause. Some reporters even stood, clapping with tears in their eyes. Naomi's heart swelled. She rocked her baby gently, whispering, Your daddy just shook the world for us. Weeks later, Jisoo announced the creation of a new foundation in Naomi's name, the Naomi Foundation for Mothers. Its mission was to provide support, advocacy, and protection for Black women and other minorities in Korea facing discrimination in healthcare. Naomi was stunned when he told her, You named it after me?" Jisoo smiled, kissing her hand. "Because you're the reason it exists. Because your pain will not be wasted. It will light the way for others." Naomi wiped a tear, her voice breaking. "You make me feel like a queen. You are one," he whispered. One evening, as Naomi rocked their baby girl to sleep, she turned to Jisoo. "Do you realize she'll grow up in two worlds? African American and Korean. Do you think she'll be okay?" Jisoo slid beside her, brushing his fingers over the baby's tiny hands. "She'll be more than okay. She'll be unstoppable. Because she'll know her parents fought for her before she even opened her eyes." Naomi leaned her head on his shoulder, her heart finally at peace. "Then let's raise her to never question her worth. To know she is loved loudly, proudly, endlessly." Jisoo kissed her gently. Together, always. Their daughter stirred softly, her small cry filling the room. Naomi smiled through tears, whispering to her child, "You'll never have to fight to be seen, my love. The world will see you shine." And in that quiet room, with love wrapping around them like a shield, Naomi realized something powerful. Her story, once marked by prejudice and pain, had transformed into a legacy of strength. A love story not just for her, but for every woman who would come after her.
Hello besties! Naomi and Jihoon's story's journey shows that the world can be cruel and full of judgment. Love built on respect, kindness, and unity can overcome even the harshest storms. The cruel treatment Naomi faced in the hospital reminds us that racism dehumanizes people, reduces their dignity, and strips them of their basic rights. But it also exposes how deep biases can still exist even in professional spaces that should protect life. Besties, the nurses and staff who mocked Naomi forgot their duty as healers. Their silence and cruelty proved that ignoring injustice is just as harmful as causing it. Jihoon didn't just love Naomi privately, he stood for her publicly. By defending her, he set a powerful example that leadership means fighting for equality, not just power. Thank you so much for watching. Can you like, subscribe, and share?